close your eyes for a second. Now, listen. Not just to the music, not just to the noise, but to the energy. Because sound is more than something we hear, it's something we feel. The bass in your chest when the beat kicks, the roar of a crowd before the first note is played. Sound moves us, shapes us, connects us. It's the reason why a beat can make you dance, why a melody can make you cry, why a song can take you back in time. When you hear a song you love, your brain reacts instantly. It floods with dopamine, the same chemical that drives pleasure, motivation, and even addiction. MRI scans show that when the beat drops, or when a melody hits just right, your brain lights up like fireworks. Before rap took over the world, it started with a mic, a beat, and a message. The Bronx in the 70s, fires in buildings, tensions in the streets, but in the middle of it all, something new was brewing. DJs looping breakbeats, MCs hyping up the crowd, kids turning cardboard into dance floors. Hip-hop wasn't just music, it was survival.
Our story starts in the South Bronx, New York City, USA. It's the early 1970s, and a young DJ is about to change the course of music forever. And it all started with 2 turntables and a microphone. Picture the scene, we're in the Bronx. The DJ's playing funk and soul songs, and tonight he has a new trick up his sleeve. He's pioneering a musical technique, and it's never been done before this. You know how most songs go verse, chorus, then there's a little instrumental break. Well, that's the part that the DJ is gonna take, and he'll play just that on the first turntable, then switch to the second and play it once more, then play it again, and right there the sound of hip-hop is born. A continuous rhythm is made when the same part is repeatedly played, and the record spins round like a hoop. It's called playing a break beat on a loop. DJ Kool Herc was the creator, living in the Bronx and born in Jamaica. That's where he learned about a thing called toasting, and he used it at the parties he was hosting. It's where someone speaks on the mic on top of the music to get the crowd hyped. To the beat they would stay in time, and to make it memorable they'd make it rhyme. This was the birth of the MC. It's how rappers we know it came to be. Its popularity would grow and grow. Before we continue, you need to know about DJ Kool Herc, DJ Hollywood, Coke Loud Rock, Grandmaster Flash.
One night, I'm waiting for the record to play out. I said, I wonder if I put that to myself. I said, if they're waiting for this particular break and I have a couple more records that's got the same breakup in it, I wonder how would it be if I put them all together. And I told them, I said, I'm going to try something new tonight. I'm going to call it a merry-go-round.
Herc's merry-go-round meant that instead of playing whole records, he would play just the instrumental breaks, mixing between them to create a continuous dance rhythm.
I started out with James Brown, clap your hands, stomp your feet. That part right there, when the break, boom, I had to come in with bongo rock. Bongo rock was still no vocals in it, and I would go into Baby Huey, the Mexican. I think we got some hit, because people was like, oh, whoa, everybody was like, yeah, I'm feeling this, oh, yeah.
This new sound took the city by storm. It was the rise of the rap art form. It wasn't only at parties anymore. Now rappers went to the studio to record. The first rap songs ever were released. It was the late 1970s. The beats were catchy, the rhymes were simple. Sugar Hill Gang released their first single. It was a song called Rapper's Delight. It shot into the charts, rap reached new heights. Then a song called The Breaks by Curtis Blow went top 5. So you need to know about Fab Five Freddy, Cool Mo D, Salt and Pepper on DMC.
This is Old School Dollar World Premiere. Surgeon General of Chilltown, New York, has determined that the sounds you're about to hear can be devastating to your ear.
Before I quit, you're gonna know I don't pop no Sugar Hill shit.
Now rap had proved it could be commercial. Its appeal was clearly universal, but rap was changing and beginning to mature. The sound got harder, the beats more raw. The rhymes became more complex and lyrical, more meaningful, more real, more political. Out to upset the status quo, it was the golden age. So you need to know about Nas, Rakim, LL Cool J, Wu-Tang, Public Enemy, Big Daddy Kane. Now rap was born in New York, that meant the East Coast had most of the success. But in the 90s new stars were born, especially in California over on the West. And the style was fresh, it was a new vibe, but there was tension growing between the two sides. A rivalry between the two coasts. Sadly two goats became two ghosts. Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac, rest in peace. And you should know Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Warren G, Cypress Hill, Ice Cube, Ice-T. And then a new era began. Rap took over the world. Sweden to Japan, New Zealand to Sudan. Almost every chart was dominated by rap's new megastars. They became multi-millionaires. Heavy rotation on the radio, they're always on the air. They push the boundaries of style and flow and lyrical skill. So you need to know about Lauryn Hill, Eminem, Kanye West, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Drake.
While rap was dominating the streets, another movement was rising. One built not on words but rhythm. Welcome to Chicago, the birthplace of house.
BBM News Time, 9:18. Time for Brad Palmer, Sport.
Many of the fans are scaring off the field now when they sight the police. And many such security numbers are joining the police, which are now about 40 or 50, and they're slowly, now rapidly walking out the center field where the fire is burning. The fans are now streaming off the field in great numbers, and I doubt if very few will be left to confront the police as they come in helmets and night stick gear.
That was the scene between games of a doubleheader at Comiskey Park last night as White Sox owner Bill Veeck went a promotion too far. It was billed as Disco Demolition Night. A rock disc jockey came up with the idea of blowing up disco records as part of his self-serving campaign against disco, and the White Sox went along by admitting anybody bringing a disco record for 98 cents.
You try something, if you don't know how it's going to end up necessarily, you think it's a good idea.
BBM News.
But music doesn't die, it evolves. And from the ashes of disco, house music was born. The underground took what the mainstream rejected and built something new. Something raw, something hypnotic, something that felt like freedom. Before EDM festivals and main stage DJs, before Vegas residencies and million-dollar sets, there was house. Chicago, late 70s, disco was dying, but the underground was alive. Enter the Power Plant, the club where Frankie Knuckles, the godfather of house, laid the foundation. But when it shut down, the scene didn't stop. It just went deeper underground. That's where the Powerhouse came in. The Powerhouse was the second club that Frankie owned, which became a sanctuary for house heads, where DJs pushed the boundaries of sound, taking disco grooves and turning them into something darker, deeper and dirtier. Hot Mix 5, a legendary DJ collective that took house music beyond the clubs and into the airwaves. These guys were Farley Jackmaster Funk, Mickey Mixon Oliver, Ralphie Rosario, Kenny Jammin' Jason, and Scott Smoking Sills. These were the architects of house, the ones who built the underground, who laid the foundation before the rest of the world even knew what was coming. Just a few hours away in Detroit, Motor City, a city built on machines and movement, another sound was forming. If house was the soul of the underground, then its cousin, techno, was the sound of the future.
Carl Craig from Detroit, the Motor City, and you're watching techno. Detroit is a city that can embrace electronics as well as industry and be able to put a soul into it, where New York or Chicago or London or any of these other cities, I don't think they have the same feelings, the same emotional connection with machines as Detroit does, because we have the car companies. We have Ford and GM and Chrysler that have plants that most of our parents or cousins or uncles or aunts work at. So we have a feel for that, and we interpret it and put it into our music.
It's absolutely naive to think that an experience on a dance floor is going to change society. But it's not above the realms of possibility that an experience on a dance floor can change an individual person's outlook on life.
Techno had been born in the underground of Detroit, but it wasn't just meant to stay there. Like a signal beaming out into the world, the sound started spreading, crossing the ocean, making its way into Europe's nightlife. And when it hit hard. Germany, where techno became more than music, it became a religion. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, a new generation took over the abandoned buildings, turning them into temples of sound. Clubs like Berghain, Tresor, Ework, these weren't just clubs, they were rituals.
Night in London, I'm standing behind the Astoria. It's trip night. It's a hot night. It's the hottest night. And this is why.
Law. The backlash against the acid house craze is gathering momentum in Britain. A lifestyle in Britain, acid house was purely a dance music in Chicago, where it was invented by a small group of DJs and producers.
The UK, a country that had already been revolutionizing dance music with acid house and illegal raves, when techno landed here, it didn't just blend in, it fueled a massive cultural explosion. From the warehouses of Manchester to the clubs of London, techno became the heartbeat. And if there was one man leading that charge, it was Carl Cox, a DJ who didn't just play records, he commanded the crowd. From small clubs to massive festivals, he became the face of techno's unstoppable rise in the UK.
I started when I was 8 years old, and I was playing parties for my mum and dad. They had a small turntable, and they would stick me in the corner and just give me a bunch of records to play and don't move until everybody's gone home. Only because I would hear the music come downstairs from the bedroom and see everybody party and have a good time. So this is how I started, and I put in records on. I didn't know what that was even. I just knew what I liked to hear, and there was some James Brown, and there was Aretha Franklin, and all sorts of old school kind of R&B and funk music, you know. And then I just kept following and pursuing this kind of the music that I liked.
Then came Spain. Ibiza had already been the mecca of dance music, but when techno arrived, it had transformed the island into a paradise of sound.
Hey, what's up? It's Sean Hollywood Hamilton. We are back here in Ibiza, Spain, headquarters for Europe After Dark, and any international clubber around the world will tell you that you cannot make a stop here on this island without stopping by the legendary Space. The party first got started here back in 1963, making Space one of the oldest nightclubs on the island. Many clubbing magazines around the world have pronounced Space in Ibiza the best club in the world. You would think with the world economy the way it is, a nightclub like this would be empty right now, right? Especially if it's 6:30 in the morning. Look at this. About 6,000 people. Of course, one of the huge reasons to be at Space in Ibiza is to catch a set by their house DJ, who happens to be one of the biggest international DJs on the planet, the legendary Carl Cox. But you get a lot of guys in the booth, and they seem to be really serious. Like it's rocket science out there. But you're having a lot of fun. You're doing the Cox move. You know, what's that move you do? That's such a cool...
Yeah, I have no idea.
You have such a good time up in that booth, and it comes across so well.
Well, the thing is, I was a dancer before I was a DJ, so I know what it's like to be on the dance floor. I know what it's like to be a punter. And the thing is about that is actually feeling the music and getting the energy from the DJ playing that music.
There are DJs, and then there's Carl Cox. This isn't just a set. What you're about to experience isn't just music. This is energy. This is presence. What started in underground clubs, in warehouses, in dark corners of the world, has now become a global phenomenon. The pulse of Detroit, the energy of Chicago, the spirit of Ibiza, electronic music didn't just stay in the underground, it took over the world. But even as it grew, as it became mainstream, as the world caught on, it never lost its soul. Because at its core, regardless of what name you give it, still the same thing it's always been. A feeling, a moment, a beat that connects us all. Electronic music is more than just a genre, it's a movement, and it's only just getting started.
Label where it can be eclectic and it can have house, techno, disco, trance, hard techno, hard house, tech house, like loads of different stuff like that. So that's what, but I guess linking it all together, it's just a kind of energy that connects them all, not being too worried about genres really, kind of.
The beats had evolved, but see, not everybody wanted these polished sounds. Some wanted something gritty, something that felt real. Something that you can make in a garage, in a basement, in a dive bar where kids are screaming into a mic, pouring their souls out.
Typically, kind of talking, it features one or maybe two guitars, a bass, drums, and a singer. Through psychedelic rock and funk and other stuff, we saw rock music kind of balloon up to incorporate many different elements like synthesizers and horn sections and all kinds of stuff happening. So punk stripped it all away. Punk was aggressive, full of energy, and often political. The songs were fast tempo and very short. The artists rejected a lot of what made mainstream music mainstream. Most of the early punk bands embraced the kind of do-it-yourself attitude, which let them exist on the fringes and find their own niche and build their own little audiences. Most of the major punk acts grew up in very urban environments like New York, Los Angeles, London, etc., so the energy made sense and it felt like a reclaiming of the inner city. Punk music grew to really define teenage angst in the same way that rock of the 60s did. It was the same attitude as like the Rolling Stones or Little Richard, just louder, more aggressive, stripped down, and a whole lot angrier. Two bands started to gain a lot of attention. They were known as the Stooges and MC5. They were loud, disruptive, and often political. Their concerts would often end in violence, and they started to open up the eyes of the music world to this new sound. The Stooges were led by a drummer turned singer named Iggy Pop. He wanted to create a new blues music that was not derivative of earlier stuff and took heavy influence from garage bands like the Sonics and the Kinks. The Stooges became known for their wild stage performances around Detroit, especially the antics of Iggy. Iggy said he took influence from Jim Morrison of The Doors, but Iggy just made everything so much more extreme. He was known to smear peanut butter and hamburger meat on his chest.
That's a health hazard.
Oh, just wait. And cut himself with shards of glass.
Nope.
And he's even credited with inventing stage diving, taken over by a group called the Ramones. They highlighted that signature look that was created by the television singer of ripped jeans and black leather jackets, which they say their jeans were ripped because that's all they could afford. So
Back before you had to like buy really expensive ripped jeans like now.
They drew on sources ranging from the Stooges to the Beach Boys to create a super unique sound. They stripped their songs down to the barest minimum. They would shout 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of every song as if they couldn't even understand basic rhythm. They played their first show at CBGB in August of 1974. By the end of the year, they had played 74 shows, each of them about 17 minutes long. But after seeing them for the first time, a music critic said, quote, "I couldn't believe people were doing this. The dumb brattiness," end quote.
Before pop punk made it to the skate parks, there was a moment, a single explosion that changed everything. Nirvana. Grunge was punk's bastard child. Kurt Cobain took the anti-authority ethos of punk and injected it with pure, unfiltered emotion. The anger? Yeah, it was still there, but it wasn't just about society, it was personal. In the early 2000s, punk had changed. The raw, in-your-face anarchy of the 70s had evolved into something faster, catchier, and Blink-182 made being an immature, reckless teen feel like the cool thing. Sum 41 brought a punk attitude with rap metal energy. This was punk for the MTV generation. Loud, fast, and perfectly built for breaking the rules. And let's be real, a huge part of that was the soundtrack that came from the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, a game which I love that shit. And it didn't just define skate culture, it introduced an entire generation of punk rock. While pop punk was running wild in skate parks, another revolution was happening in the dive bars of New York. Enter the Strokes, who made rock cool again. Their debut album, Is This It?, didn't just spark a movement, it saved rock from being just irrelevant. And then the scene evolved. Pop punk collided with emo, giving birth to a whole new rise. Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, these bands took that punk energy and made it more personal, with dramatic storytelling. From the other side of the world, something completely different was happening. Australia wasn't just making indie rock, they were reinventing sound itself.
All the super crazy Tame Impala fans right at the front.
Here's Tame Impala, a vision that would change indie music forever. Psychedelic rock wasn't new, but the way they blended it with electronic textures, hypnotic drums, and the dreamlike melodies that made it feel like a whole new genre. There's also Rufus Du Sol, a band that didn't just perform, they transported you, they took you somewhere else. Their music, it blurred the lines between live instruments and electronic energy. One moment they're a band, hitting you with some drums, soaring vocals, and then they're DJs, controlling the rhythm of a crowd like house pioneers into hypnotic pulsing sets. And it wasn't just Tame Impala and Rufus Du Sol. Flume was revolutionizing the electronic indie scene, and I got the chance to see him in Miami in a place called Grand Central. No longer alive, that venue, but it was an interesting place to say the least. And another ones that were killing it were Empire of the Sun. They blurred the lines between rock and synth, and I also got to see them back in the day in Ultra, I believe in 2018. Man, what an experience. Still one of my favorite live shows. Rap, house, punk, 3 different sounds, but the same energy, the same drive, the same need to break free. Music isn't just sound waves, it's the heartbeat of culture. It moves through time, through people, through every moment we live. And no matter what, no matter how the world changes, music will always find a way to bring us back to the moment, because sound is forever. And if you love music as much as I do, bring it to life with the Sound Coloring Book, live now. And thank you so much for watching and so much for your support. Peace.